All right, everyone, it's time to talk about paganism rising. Yes, indeed. In the Peloponnese, the first pagan temple, which has been combated by both the Greek government and the Greek Orthodox Church, to be erected in 1700 years, has just gone into service. Well, I don't believe in ritualism, so I don't really care about temples, generally speaking, but it shows a certain spirit among the people, a restoration of the old order, the order prior to Orthodox Christianity there in this particular case. This has already happened in Scandinavia. Some pagan temples have been erected in Iceland and Finland, in Norway, and so forth. We are returning. The pagans are back, like our inscription archived, of course. This is the first polytheistic Hellenic temple that has been erected in well over 1,000 years, at least, again, within that region. Most temples are just ruins at this point. They were destroyed by Ottomans, by Christians, and so forth, Jews. They were torn down. They were burned to the ground. Look at the burning of the Library of Alexandria. That was a massive disaster for us bibliophiles. We don't like to think about that, for example, although that was pagan on pagan, so it didn't involve Latter-day religions. The first Hellenic temple being made dedicated to Pan. Now, Pan is an interesting character, sort of like a faun. Likes to play his flute and shit like that. Likes to go out into nature and eat berries and things, among other things. I always liked the nature gods and goddesses and other spirits within paganism more than any of the others. So you've got Artemis, you've got Dionysus, you've got Pan, sort of creatures like that, nymphs and dryads and stuff like that. Very, very interesting. Greek paganism fascinates me. I know relatively less about it than I do Norse paganism. Like I've got the word hoard from the Asatru Folk Assembly, for example. I've got a copy of that. I got a lot of pagan literature actually off eBay many, many years ago. And I think I may have edited one of those works as well. Can't really recall because I've edited over 400 of them. But yeah, I know a little bit more about Scandinavian paganism, and I know there are pagan temples that have gone up in the last like decade or so in Iceland and in Finland and Norway and places like that. Uh, but this is the first Peloponnese sort of polytheistic temple that has been erected in well over 1,000 years. Yes, indeed, we pagans are back. That's what I'm talking about. Have to go visit it. Also, if you go down to Greece, the river Styx is an actual real place down there. It actually exists, believe it or not. You have to go and bathe in it, baptize myself. On hellfire, I suppose, or something like that. Actually, I'll just take a little pirate rowboat and I'll go down the river. Then probably dying in the process. Would be a good way to go. Styx Hexenhammer died on the Styx. How fitting. That would be kind of funny. But yes, Pam is pretty cool. If you read Greek literature from the antiquated period, Pan is a pretty innocuous character. Some of them are a little bit different than others. For example, Dionysus in the official story. He tried to fuck Athena at one point. He failed in this endeavor, and I think got bashed to the ground actually at one point or something like that. It's a very, very funny story. Greek mythology, by the way, revolves around Zeus having sex with things, creating demons and giants and tyrannical creatures, and everyone is warning him not to do so. Then he does so because he's just a horn dog and then bad things happen. Seems to be mostly the gist of part of Greek mythology, which I always found very, very funny. So yeah, link in the description, archived of course. We have the first Hellenic temple in Greece in 1,700 years. It's pretty impressive. And they were opposed by both the civic structure, no surprise there, and the religious orthodoxy, which tends to prevail in Greece as a result of this. I remember seeing an In Search of episode, I think this was 1978 or something like that, maybe 1977. The one with Leonard Nimoy, when he was voicing In Search of. It was one of the earlier episodes. And they were going to Iceland, and they were talking about the first pagan ceremonies that had been held there for centuries, actually. And I can't remember the name of the high priest there, but they had a whole community and stuff like that. So in the northern regions, it took back much more quickly. You look at the Bok Saga, which you should look up, B-O-C-K, Saga. I've actually got a book on the topic. It was made by, I think, one of Bach's relatives. He had talked to one of them, actually, and he was talking about using dynamite and excavators and stuff like that to try to excavate the Lemminkainen temple and the linguistic system and stuff like that. Thought it was fascinating. Watched it all the time when I was much younger. Still would like to see it, by the way. They're on the channel, actually. Very, very interesting. There's a linguistic structure, and I happen to generally believe that they are right with regards to sort of an antiquated linguistic concept that was passed down through generations in sort of a polemic sense. The same is true, by the way, of Greek mythology transversing into what becomes proto-modern occultism, by the way. It's very, very interesting. The ancient mysteries did not die. They were not eliminated. They simply got transcribed over and over orally, generally speaking, and became, in some senses, certain aspects of modern occultism. Fascinating concept. If you haven't learned anything about linguistics, you definitely should, because it's a good idea. If you're going to get into magic, if you're going to get into the occult in any way, shape, or form, I strongly suggest you take a linguistics course. Linguistic anthropology comes to mind. It's one of the most valuable things that I ever did. I wouldn't have been able to pay off my college debt without having taken that course, honestly. Very, very interesting. As far as paganism in general, it is rising up all around the world. In many cultures, by the way, not just the European diaspora. We're not just talking about Greece. We're not just talking about Scandinavia. Paganism and occultism have been rapidly rising in parts of West Africa. I've noticed this. You can see it online if you're a content creator, by the way. Certainly a return to traditionalistic norms in parts of East Asia, classical culture and so forth, kinds of ritualistic practices that they've been practicing in some cases for thousands of years. They're returning. The new generation is an occult generation. It's not the orthodoxy that we had 50 years ago. It's entirely different. I've been practicing some magic myself these days. Seems to have worked fairly well. Good thing. There's a reason for that. Happens all the time. Paganism is making a comeback, and I think that this is a very good thing for the world. If people want to frolic out in nature with, the deer and the berries and stuff like that, take a drink. Have a little orgy or some group sex or something like that. I fail to see why this is a bad thing. You might as well enjoy life because your physical body is only going to get one of them anyway. So, go and fuck, go and eat some berries. And if you want to venerate Pan or Artemis or any of these other characters, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, they probably exist. Somewhere in the universe, they're real because the universe is vast and limitless. Somewhere out there, they exist. So keep that in mind. That's about all. Peace out.